So we're going to have a show where you're going to read those clippings about your 10 points, okay?
Actually, I wasn't a kid. It was like a corporate league. You played in that team.
A Kids Their League? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Welcome back to the latest episode of Game Day Glare. My name is Ish, and as usual, I am with the main man himself, Mr. Lance. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, E. I'm doing good. How's the no construction right now? We're good. We got a good hour before your neighbor's construction project kicks in, I guess.
Fingers are always crossed underneath the table because I think they're on a lunch break right now. So we'll see how long that goes. Hopefully they're eating out somewhere and it goes for at least an hour. But
it's interesting though how we shared that and that clip. Everyone reacted to it right away. So people don't really want to hear us talk about sports. They want to hear us talk about our neighbors and everyday kind of things, I guess, right?
Oh, I've got plenty of neighbors to talk about if you want.
Exactly. My wife makes fun of me. She says I'm neighborhood watch around here because I work from home most of the time. So I know what's going on.
So you're that guy who knows everything about everyone.
That's it.
And
don't move on my street.
You know, you gossip around about the neighbor on the left to the neighbor on the right and vice versa.
I think they gossip about me, okay? I don't gossip about them. They gossip about me.
Yeah, makes sense. Speaking of gossip, there's actually no link whatsoever. But yeah, basically we're talking about client, basically dealing with clients. So client expectations, how to manage your clients, whether it's their expectations before the video, how to deal with the feedback after, the basically the relationship, the communication between the sports videographer and the clients. Is that a fair way to describe our episode?
Yeah, like kind of balancing your creativity and their expectations. Because sometimes the two clash. You have an idea or you do a certain edit and this wasn't what your client's expecting. So this episode is like how to get on the same page with your client. What are they kind of hiring you for? What kind of videos can you do? Bumps in the road you'll run into, that kind of stuff that we've dealt with plenty of times in our videographer journey.
Makes sense. I'm excited about this one actually. So let's start from the beginning. I'm assuming usually for you and for me as well, like when it starts, it's a client that reaches out and say, hey, we want to do a video about this. Send us a quote, blah, blah. But like, what would be your first questions? How do you start that conversation?
So the first thing I'm trying to do is understand the project. Like, what's their goal of this project? What's the purpose of this project? And then I take it from there. So, deadlines. I'm always asking, the first question I ask is, when is this video due? And especially with revisions, right? So say if they say the video has to air, I don't know, September 30th. Well, I know I got to give them a first draft by like the 25th. And then by the time they come back to me, maybe we can do one more edit, 26th, 27th, and then they have it for the 30th, as an example. But I'm always stressed about deadline. Then it's about, okay, what's the topic? What kind of video are you looking for? Do you have any examples of anything that you like that you kind of want it to resemble, just to kind of give me an idea of where this project's going to go from the get-go. And you?
Yeah, well, deadline is definitely a good one. Also, resources in terms of, well, it depends if there's a shoot involved or it's just editing. But like if it's editing, then like what are they actually supplying in terms of content and stuff? And if it's shooting, then there's also the questions about the location and things like that. Obviously, when you're niched into a specific genre like sports, for example, and there's things that exactly where this is going and where it's going to be shot and things like that. But yeah, more the logistics side. But beyond that, it's like you said, asking sort of what their needs are, what's the ultimate goal of the video, what's the purpose, and also sort of trying to make sure that like you said earlier, like just making sure we're on the same page regarding the creative vision. But I feel like for me, that's not necessarily that big of a conversation in the sense that people will hire me because of my, well, because let's face it, like you're being hired by marketing people who, whatever their role is, like they know nothing about video and they sort of rely on you to come up with something. And so usually if they reach out to you in the first place, it's because they've seen some of your stuff or you've already produced content for them before in the past and they liked what they saw and they want you to replicate that but in a new format or in a new sort of, you know, piece of content. So yeah, it's but there's definitely like it just depends on the size of the project because if it's a bigger sort of edit that's going to take you a few days to do, like you want to make sure that you're not wasting those days going in a direction that is not shared by the clients. So you definitely want to. Well, for me, it's more about asking them for a brief of like what they had in mind in terms of what they wanted to look like, or and then it's agreeing on the music, for example, and things like that, and having a bit of a conversation where they're happy with what you're saying and what you're bringing to the table, and then you can sort of go from there.
I always find it easier if I shoot the project and get to edit it than if I'm just
Yeah,
editing the project, because I'm more invested in the footage. I already know what's been shot, so I'm not just I'm saving time when I'm going through clips. I've already kind of what you call it, flagged the best shots in my camera. So then I already it already saves me a lot of time. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, what kind of videos are sports teams looking to hire for? Like maybe we should group that out first because there's a lot of different videos that they can hire a sports videographer to do. So off the
yeah.
top of your head, what videos would someone hire you to create for them?
Well, because I was gonna say, like game recaps, for example, used to be a thing I would be hired for, but these days, um, usually, well, I'm thinking of the at the professional level, like there'll be someone internally that would do something like that. Like they wouldn't outsource something like that, to someone like me. But otherwise, a hype reel that they'll play, especially at the beginning of the season, or like for me, it's like if I'm working, I'm doing one for the Australian national team, like the soccer team at the moment, because being a national team, when they play exhibition games in Australia, well, the promoter of that event will be in charge of producing videos for the big screen. It's not like the team has like this. They have like a videographer, but they don't have like a team that's in charge of producing videos for every single game that they play. Like the videographer is more for the social media aspect. So so yeah, so I do a lot of hype reels for like games that are just like one offs here and there, and otherwise, media days will be another thing that you can get hired for. Uh, yeah, what else? Can you think
I'd
of
say
something else
features,
that I forgot?
player
What?
features. If there's
Oh yeah,
a special story about a player in that game, I think you made a good point though. Game recaps are more for youth sports, minor league teams. They would hire you for a recap. Pro sports nowadays with their replays and all that, like even when we had Jace on the show, they do it all instantly. So they're not really going to be hiring videographers for that, but minor league teams will. So yeah, you're getting for hypes, reels, features. Um,
and you also get a lot of requests for marketing, yeah, for or sponsors. Like a lot of the sponsors, it's part of their contract with the team that they'll have access to like a player or two to do like a 30-second sort of promo video or integrated sort of content thing somehow. So yeah, get a lot of those as well.
you know what? Working with sponsors, that's where it's very important to make sure that the creative aspect is understood, because the sponsors are a lot more stricter than teams that are just expecting hype reels or game recaps. Game recaps, hype reels, you have a lot more freedom. As soon as you're working with sponsors, they have fonts that are certain fonts, certain colors, certain sizes of logos. Like you have to really nail all that stuff down. Now that usually comes after your first rough cut is done, and then you import all your graphics and all that. But these are all things to think about when you're getting hired for video projects with sponsors. And it's something that you learn as you go, unfortunately. Like there's times where, you have a great edit, you're super happy with it, and they're like, actually, no, our video has to start with a logo, end with a logo, or there's like little minor details that you weren't aware of. So ask questions right away and try and get the most answers you can from those sponsors for sure.
And they'll often have, and even teams like professional teams, they'll have like a, well, there's different names for it, but like a brand guide, or it'd be like a PDF that tells you, what the font is, what the colors, the official colors are. So every time you put text, it has to be in one of those colors or in one of those fonts, and then the logo, how can it be used, and there should be at least that much space between the logo and anything else. All these different things, and how you use their assets, whether it's backgrounds or ribbons or whatever the case. There's rules and how you can use it and how you're not allowed to use it, and all these things. So like usually brands, professional teams, they'll have like a brand guidelines that's already done and ready to go, and has everything you need to know in there, and they'll just sort of give that to you so that you can produce your content accordingly.
The brand toolkit is essential to saving time, because just little things like a lower third, then you already know the colors, the font, so it saves you a lot of time.
Yeah.
And the first time you get one of them, you're like, do I really need this for the sports video? And then you go through it and you get more accustomed to it, and it's just there to actually give you guidance and save you a headache from later on.
Not exactly. Especially that, yeah, like I said, usually you're dealing with people who don't really know anything about video and photo and things like that. So it's easier for them to just give you that document, and all the information that you need isn't there. There might be as well, if you're producing content for a big screen. Usually the stadium has the same type of document that will explain to you exactly what your files should be. Like, is it supposed to be like a QuickTime or a XMF or whatever it's called, and like it'll give you exactly the codec, the frame rate, all these things that you need to produce your content for. And then it's probably one thing for the big screen, but it's another thing for the LCD sort of ribbon that goes around the stadium. There's another kind of, other settings for another screen, and then so you have all this information in the PDF, and therefore you're not wasting your time building your sequence, in the 1080p, and then realizing that the screen's actually a touch wider and actually has to be a different resolution, and now you got to reformat everything because you didn't know.
Exactly. Use the tools that they give you. Now, you can give them some tools too that can help your process. Like you can provide storyboards or mood boards before shoots to kind of tell them where you're going with this, and sometimes, yeah. So like if I'm doing say a media day, right? I'm definitely expecting for player headshots or video headshots for the scoreboard, stuff like that. I'm expecting a mood board. I'm expecting to see what angles are we getting the players, how do we want them looking, and basically you just have it on a black bristle board, and you have pictures that you printed up from the computer, and you have them taped on, and you just make sure that you get those angles, and it's a perfect reference, and everyone's on the same page, and that way you're not missing everything. And then I also use it as a checklist too. So say there's, I don't know, let's say there's 4 pictures on there, A, B, C, D. Well, then I know, okay, I already did A. Okay, we did B. Oh, we still got to do C and D. And it's an easy visual reference that you have there on site. And it also helps when the player walks in and you show them that reference. They know what to do. They're kind of up to speed. And that's the idea, is to make these things as smooth as possible. And also when you're editing, you know that you have all the players doing the same position. So you can do some dynamic edits, like some quick jump cuts in that in between guys, because you have them all in the same angles. But storytelling is a lot harder with a storyboard. Like, especially in sports, what I kind of do is say entrance shots or close-up shots, stuff like that. I'll storyboard those. And then for action sequences, I'll just write like action sequence, and they'll kind of trust me on, I'm going to edit a quick action sequence of, I don't know, goals, home runs, whatever, to this beat.
But have you ever been in a situation where you're showing or you're sending like one of those storyboards to a client, try to get them to understand your vision, and they're just not feeling it, and you kind of have the feeling that they're not feeling it because they just can't. They're not creative people, and they can't see beyond just what's on the piece of paper, and they're not impressed because they're just looking at just super basic drawings, and they're like, it doesn't seem that great because they just can't translate it into what it's going to look like. And like, have you ever had that feeling
Yeah,
where you find like if they trust me to put it, to video, they'll like it, but at the moment, because it's on paper, they don't really like it just because they're not wired that way. Like, you know what I mean?
100%. 100%.
Totally.
What I've done before actually for a big project is I actually did like a rough edit, and I took footage from other videos that I found on YouTube that I wanted to kind of replicate, and I kind of built a sequence that way for them. Like when I had headshots, I showed actual stills of the people, or I found video of something similar, and I wrote like text on the image saying, "This section will be the player section. The player will turn like this," and I'd space it out for them. That this is the song so far. It doesn't happen often, but you have to find a way to go the extra mile to get on the same page, and it's tricky. And there's times too where I tell clients like, "Hey, send me a video reference, send me a link, I'll take a look at it." Or if you don't like this, music. We talk about music all the time on this show. If you don't like the track, let me know now. We'll find one that you like before we start the edit, and I'll take the time and go through stuff with them, because the more communication you have, the better understanding of each other you have, the easier the project will be. And I want to save time, and I want them to be happy. So I'll go the extra mile and do a little bit of extra work to make sure that we're on the same page and they understand what my vision is and I understand what their
Yeah.
vision is.
But how big of a project does it have to be for you to whip out the whole storyboard? Because I'm assuming if a parent hires you to just do
No,
like a highlight of their kid, you're not gonna. Oh,
no,
this is what we're gonna do.
no, no.
So what's the line?
It's for a higher ticket price client that I'm pulling that out for. Like it's a big contract. A lot of eyes are going to be on this video, so you want to make sure you get it perfect. Um, Even so, I've used it before in brand stories, say for corporate stuff. Not just I'll just get off sports for a second. So if I'm doing like a pitch for social content to a client, so we'll do like a 1 day filming, 30 days reels, but they also want a brand story. Well, the brand story is where I'll do the storyboard stuff, so they really understand what their brand story is going to look like. The social media content stuff, we don't need to storyboard that. It's pretty straightforward. It's mostly talking heads with some B-roll, so they understand that part more. But storyboard for branding or bigger YouTube videos, I'll storyboard for that stuff for sure. Just to, first of all, to show them that I'm professional, to show them that like, hey, we're putting some thought into this. We're not just filming a bunch of random stuff and then putting it in our editing software after and looking for the best shot. Like, we're filming with purpose. And the reason why I do that storyboard, it saves me time too. I'm going there with already my shot list. I already have a plan. I know, yes, I'm going to film some extra stuff. I'm going to maybe use some angles that aren't in my storyboard, but the idea and the concept is there. So the storyboard is to show them the concept, the idea, and what you're trying to achieve.
So you must be a good. You must draw very.
No, no, no. That's another. My drawings are not that good. I do have an iPad though with a pencil, so I try my best. But I have a little template, so it has like what eight visual blocks, and I'll kind of lay it out that way for them. And I'll add pictures, like I'll add screenshots that I find on Google Images, stuff like that, to kind of help portray it too. I find I'm going more through that route now to kind of show it, like because you can pretty much find anything you're looking for now. But like I'll give a different description, like, oh, the angle's going to be like this, except he's not going to be holding a phone; he'll be holding a football or whatever. That's kind of how I do it. It's basically just so they understand where the story's headed. Now, you never do storyboards, or you haven't really had to in a while.
Well, yeah, definitely the latter. But I think I've done storyboards more for, like you said, for a media day, for example, just to make sure that we all know what we're getting into, and also just so that we can get the right equipment in there. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna show up with a bunch of lights and smoke, and so, and then we're doing something completely simple. So just, and obviously the budget is the first conversation. Like a media day is a totally separate thing in that sense, where, like, it starts from the budget, and then we talk about creatively how far we can push it within that budget, and then sort of go from there. So yeah, you're definitely gonna have to look at some images together, or like you said, I like to send a lot of links to videos that kind of look like what we're trying to do, and then say, well, we could do this, but then add a bit more of that, or change the colors, or if if you're sending a basketball video, but it's a football team, like, we're gonna same concept of like movement and stuff, but adapted to our sport and whatever. But but yeah, it's mostly for media days. Like if I'm doing a video like that's proper, either like you said, a feature, or a highlight reel or something like that. It's usually it's more like they've seen my stuff, they like my style, and they trust me to do something sort of similar to that. And the only thing that's will be very important to sort of agree on from the start will be the music, and if they have like a certain thing that they really want to push within that video, then they'll tell me as well. But other than that, and if there's things that we need to stay away from, like, I don't know, like for a basketball, like a basketball team, for example, like I remember coming from hockey when I was working for the Canadians, it was important to like show everyone.
Yeah.
Where when you're doing basketball, no one really cares about anybody other than the starting five. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
so there's no pressure to put the guy who gets like 5 minutes a game, if that, in the videos. Like, not at all. And to personally, I think that's the way to go. And I think it is now, even for hockey, a bit more. Like, it's. I don't know. You can tell me, but I get the feeling that now videos are shorter, and you just focus on what sells.
You definitely focus more on your superstars.
Mm.
But like, say if I'm doing youth sports, like I'm hired for something youth sports, I'm trying to show everybody because I feel like those kids want to see, and those parents want to see those kids in that video. So that's when I give the little extra attention to everybody. But yeah, in pro sports, the guys with the big contracts have to be seen the most. And when you're in those marketing meetings, yeah, they make that clear right away. Like, hey, this is our star. He's the star of this video. Make sure he's the star of this video. Where when you're doing minor sports and you're hired for a minor team, you still have some stars, some better players, but you try and show
Yeah.
everybody.
But then again, it depends what level, what age group, and what type of, like, for example, what type of video as well. Because, like, if it's a team sort of presentation type of thing, then obviously. But if it's like a highlight or a game recap, putting only the players that actually did good or some good within that game, not to specifically target like the top three, but just putting the best action that happened that day might motivate the players that are not in the video to get like, I got to step my game up if I want to be in the videos more. Because I remember, like, for me when I was younger, it wasn't a video. It was like, I remember playing basketball, and if you wanted a mention in the game recap that was written, you had to score at least 10 points. If you like 10 points and up, you were mentioned as like, oh, that guy scored this, did that, blah, blah. But under 10 points, your name wasn't written anywhere. So my motivation was to score at least double
10 points.
digits just so that I can be mentioned, what I mean?
Oh, man.
So sometimes, yeah, it does help. But like I said, depends what age group, what type of competition we're talking about, all that.
So we're going to have a show where you're going to read those clippings about your 10 points, okay?
Actually, I wasn't a kid. It was like a corporate league. You played in that team.
Oh, you're talking about our kicker league? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much.
So here's the backstory, guys. He and I used to play in this basketball league, and they did give us shoutouts. And a true story, I remember my brother at the time was the leading scorer on our team. And then one game I showed up, and I had like 20-something points. And they just referred to Jarrett as my brother, and he was mad. He was mad. But yes, if you scored 10 points, you got in the write-up.
Yeah. But meanwhile, he was scoring like 40 a game or something.
Yeah, he was doing pretty good. It's because we were passing the ball. All right. Enough about Jared. Back on topic. How, you know what people don't understand too is how hard it is to present your concept when you are working with a big team to a marketing team. Like it's stressful when you show up and you're like, this is my idea for this video. What do you guys think? Because a lot of times you'll throw out ideas the first time and they get rejected. And then you know what it's like when you work with a team. Later on, those same ideas come back, but it's someone else's idea that you had already given it. So you have to learn how to, give out your ideas, share your opinion, and then accept rejection and accept that later on that idea might come back, but it's going to be someone else's. And since it's someone else's, it's a better idea than yours. So you kind of got to learn how to collaborate. At least that's what I learned from working for a pro sports team, is not to take anything to offense. And like, my idea might not have been good at that time. Now that idea is good. Yes, someone else brought it up, because a lot of the ideas are all recycled. They get thrown around, they get forgotten about, they get brought back up. So don't let your feelings get hurt. Just try and, work as a team, work with what their information they're giving you, and focus on that one project at a time. Because you're going to have times where tons of your music ideas, visual ideas are going to get shot down. And it's learn from those and build off that.
Yeah, but there's even the worst version of that where, like, yeah, as again, like well, no, it could happen at a lower level as well. Because I was going to say, like, at a pro level, what happens sometimes is that we'll have a meet. Hey, let's meet. We want to talk about next season, content, things like that. And at that point, you're not hired or anything. It's just like, let's discuss. And do you have any ideas, concepts that you think we could do? And then cool, like, oh yeah, this could be cool. And then, all right, so then you quote them based on, let's do this concept of video and that concept of video and blah, blah. And then they either don't hire you at all, or they hire you to do, let's say, 20% of the content proposal. But the ideas that you suggested end up getting done just without you. Like, I mean, like, they basically take your ideas and say, oh yeah, they're great, but they're thinking, we can do this, we can do that without him. We don't really need him. We'll just do it internally. And they basically steal your ideas. They invite you to a free brainstorm and then steal your ideas and do them themselves. So that's always sort of a tricky place to be when you're meeting a team and you're trying to get hired off your great ideas. But there's always a possibility that they just take him and run. You know what I mean?
It's happened to me in the corporate world. I pitched this plastic surgeon clinic, a bunch of video ideas. We had a couple of meetings. It went really, really good. And then it was like, oh, we worked on all the stuff. And then it was time to move forward. And then they stalled. And they kind of disappeared for a while. And suddenly all of the video ideas that I had started popping up on Facebook, exactly like how I told them to do it.
So do you have a way to stop that from happening?
No, the way I handle it is this. I met with them. I gave them the idea. I willingly gave them the idea. I sent them the stuff. They chose to go with someone else instead of me. I look at those videos and I feel like I would do a better job than what they're putting out there. So I took it as that. I feel like the value isn't there in the videos because it's missing some professionalism. The scripts are good. I know the scripts are good because I gave them the scripts, but that was a learning experience for me. So things like that happen. So just take it as a learning experience. And now I don't do that again. I don't give all the scripts and all the stuff before we actually have assigned it.
You're going far with this. Yeah.
But I thought we were good. Like I was just waiting for payment and all that. And it was something that I learned. And you learn that as you grow. That's why we're talking about this kind of stuff on the show, right? So people don't make the same mistakes that we did, because when you're in a videography career, you're gonna mess up sometimes. You're gonna give away some secrets that maybe you shouldn't have, and they'll find someone else to do it, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there who don't always see value, they see price. So if they can find someone cheaper to do it, they'll do it. And if you lose a client like that, guess what? You don't want that client anyway. They did you a favor. Yes, you might not feel like that at the moment because it hurts, and especially depending on where you are in your career, you want to try and get as many jobs as you can, as many clients as you can. But if someone's going to not see the value in you, don't worry about it. I take it as I gave them a gift. I hope they're doing well with it. If they come back to me later on, I know I'll produce better videos than they have right now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I like for me, like the I remember one time specifically that it happened, and it's like obviously if they either hire someone else to do your idea or they do it internally, it's for one reason only, is because it's cheaper that way, and um, and every single time that they go with the cheaper option, it's never as good as it could have been for more money. So like if it's a grassroots level sort of sports, they're probably going to be fine with that because it is what it is with the budgets that we have. But at the pro level, there's always regret. They always sort of regret and feel like and then next year they'll try to get you involved a bit more because they're sort of, especially if it's something that's going to be ongoing all season. Like so many times people have so many times, a few times, I've been dropped from doing season content, like for a team, like let's say like their high preels and their headshots and things like that, and they're going in this cheaper direction, and then their entire season is a nightmare, not just in terms of quality, but just logistics, and they're dealing with someone that might not be like it might not be their full-time job, so it's really complicated to get them to make changes at the last second, and because they're not very experienced, they're making a lot of mistakes, and all these mistakes are being caught like at different times, and sometimes just before the game, or let's say there's a new player that's being signed and they need to create a new headshot super quick, that guy's not available, like the whole season is just a nightmare. And then the season after that, they're like, you know what, let's just go with that. It was just so much easier when he was doing it. And yeah, so it's just sometimes you just gotta let them make not the mistake, but just let them experience what it is to save some money so that they can come back to you and never leave again.
Listen, if you show them the value and you do good work, they will come back to you. And I have a lot of clients that I stopped working with, and then later on, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, you hear from them again. You make sure that that experience is good for them. Working with you was good. Yes, not all the projects were perfect, or maybe there were some communication issues, or maybe there was more revisions than you thought. But as long as you're pleasant and you make it a good experience for them, they will come back. For sure, for sure. Now, how do you handle client feedback? Because it's
Very
not
badly.
easy. Pardon?
Very badly.
Because it's not easy. Like you do a good edit. Like I've done edits and I'm pumped and I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. And then you have some guy who's not attached to it like you, and he reviews it and he's like, nope, it's not what I want, or it's not that. I feel like when I was younger, I had a really hard time dealing with that rejection. Now that I'm older, and I'll use air quotes here, more mature, because I'm not really more mature. Uh, I kind of let the client dictate. Like I'll share why I did certain things in that. But I mean, I've had videos where I'm like, this shot doesn't work, and the client's like, I want that shot, and I'm not fighting with them. I'm like, you really want that shot? Here you go. I'll put it in, and I'll make them happy, because at the end of the day, I want my client to be happy. And I realize like I don't always have to be happy with what they want in it. I do want to make sure it flows, and I do have a standard that I try to keep it to. But at the end of the day, it's their video. So if they really want that shot of, I don't know, this player tying up a skates, or if they really want laser effects in their video, then I'm going to give it to them. Even though I don't always agree, I want my client to be happy with it. And it's really tough, like when you become an editor or working in sports, to actually give away that freedom and kind of sometimes let the client dictate the project a bit. I don't know if it was an ego thing that I had a problem with in the beginning. Is like I felt like I knew more about video than they did. But now I just kind of explain, like, this is why I went down this route. This is what my thought process is. Can you please give me your thought process on why you want to use this shot, or why you want this change? Because some people you're going to work with, and I call it the thumbprint effect. It's like they just want to put their thumbprint on the video. So they'll make a change just to say they've made that change, and it adds no value. Now, I've worked another project where people have made suggestions, and I'm like, why would you want that? And then later on, it actually worked and it made the video better. So anything that's making my video better, I'm 100% for. And if it's something that I don't agree on, I'm going to ask, hey, just explain to me what your thought process is. Why do you want this change? What more value does it add? And they'll explain to you. And then you can see a different point of view because not everybody sees it the same way. And that's something that you learn as you develop your skills, as you develop a little bit more maturity in this field.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the jackhammer to stop. But no, I'll go anyway. No, I was gonna say it's. I think I personally, I used to fight a lot more when I was working. Let's say I'm working for a team and we're having a conversation live there. I'll have a much deeper conversation trying to fight for my ideas and stuff. Where if I'm remotely by email, like I'm not gonna go back and forth with like waiting for you to answer and stuff. Like I'll just do it. Especially that if I'm working remotely, that therefore I'm not working for the like I'm not an employee. I'm just it's your brand, it's your vision at the end of the day. So if that's what you want in your video, like if I'm part when I'm a part of the Canadians, then I'm invested and I want to get them to have the same vision as me for our brand, for our team. If it's your team and I'm just being outsourced some work, then I'm sort of yeah. If you believe that that's where your brand should go, then it is what it is. But sometimes though, there are things where it's just that the client assumes that because let's say I don't know, we won a game and then the players, people are celebrating because we won and they want like celebration shots because in their minds it was crazy. The crowd was going wild, but in reality, it doesn't really translate like that on camera for various reasons. Maybe the moment in time where the crowd was going wild, that 10, 15, maybe 30 seconds, you were focused on the players. And by the time you got to the crowd, it wasn't as exciting. Like you didn't get those like jumps when the buzzer beater went in, for example. Like you can't film everything. So like you either got the players or you got the crowd. And maybe they want the thing that you weren't shooting at the time, but they're expecting that because it happened and it was crazy, then that's what you should show. And but yeah, so sometimes you just have to let them understand that certain shot that they expect just don't exist. And you have a version of it, but it's a watered down version that's not going to have the effect that they're hoping for. And I'm sure my neighbors agree.
I'm sure. No, but that's a great example because you just got to communicate what material you're working with because you can't invent shots. Or you say, listen, if you're not happy with it, how about I come back another game and I just film these specific shots to add to this video, depending on the number one question that we said needs to be answered, your deadline. If you have time, then you can add stuff. Now, I don't know about you, but when I send a video for approval, I always send an email. So like some people will ask for like a rough draft or whatever, and I'll put like text right over my thing. This has not been color corrected, or audio still needs to be
Uh,
done because this is the first question that they say in your reply. Oh, the color's off, or oh, the audio is not perfect. And I'm like, no, this is just a rough cut. I'm just making sure that you like it before I do all the final adjustments or graphics, stuff like that. I also asked them to be specific and be like, okay, who is approving this video? Please make sure that sometimes, when you work with a team or you work with clients, there's more than one person approving this video. So what I ask is that they both talk first or that group talks, and then they send me an email with the changes that they want. I also ask them to give me the changes in time code, which saves me time. So my videos, I'll make it easy for clients. My QuickTime starts at 0 seconds and then ends at, say, 3 minutes. So at 1 minute 15, say we don't want that shot of this player at 2 minutes 25. Please take out that crowd. There's a girl back there with an opposite team jersey, maybe something I didn't notice, stuff like that. That's what I expect. Now, I do give parameters like, hey, in this price, I include 2 revisions. Now, if I mess up on a spelling mistake or they send me something I don't make spelling mistakes. I copy paste spelling mistakes. If I copy pasted the spelling mistake, I will change that. It doesn't count as a revision. Don't worry. It's something small. We'll fix it. But major revisions, I'll give you 2, 3, depending on the contract. We'll talk about that before I start my edit, just to manage expectations. And when I'm doing those edits, I expect the same thing. So all parties involved who are approving, please approve it together. send me the changes, tell me what you want, and then we'll move forward. It saves a lot of time. Instead, I've worked on projects in the past and you have 2E where there's multiple people and you get multiple emails. So what happens is the first person, Johnny, sends you his revisions. You edit it all. Next thing, oh, Sophie sends you her revisions. You do it, and they're not the same revisions, so no one knows where they are. So I always try to get them on the same page before they send it to me, and I only do it because it saves all of us time. Now, it's not always easy explaining that to them. So it's kind of like, you have to have like a little Zoom meeting or in-person meeting. And that's where you say that kind of thing. Like, okay, guys, this is how the revisions work just to save time. And you make it sound like you want them to know that you value their time, but they need to know that you want your time valued also. How do you handle revisions?
Yeah, similar way. Just make a rule of how many rounds of revisions there will be. There can be as many changes in each round. That's there's no limit on the amount of changes in a round, but there's a limit on, on the amount of rounds. So that's why typically, like you said, you'll tell them like, if there's 2 rounds or 3 rounds, and then the next one is going to cost you X amount of money for each extra round. That's why they want to, before they send you an email where all the changes are, they should discuss it among themselves, agree, because otherwise, like that situation that you mentioned, not only is Johnny sending you something and then Sophie's sending you something else, but often it's like Johnny sends a few things, and then Sophie will come in and say, "Oh, what do you guys think? Should we also do this and do that?" And then it becomes a conversation, and we're basically having a meeting between 3, 4, 5 people about like what we should or should not do. And obviously, it's emails, so there's a delay and everything. And meanwhile, you're sitting there in front of your computer. That's the day that you budgeted and organized. That's your editing day, and you're just waiting for them to figure out what changes they want in the video. And by this time it gets sort of resolved in the long email conversation, the whole day is gone. And then, it's up to you to either do it the next day or that night. And so that's why, look, round of revisions, you guys talk among yourself, decide what you want, and then send me a very straightforward email, like you said, with time codes and stuff. And then we'll go from there. But otherwise, there's also platforms now that are very helpful for stuff like that, like frame.io and frame.io, and Vimeo, I think, does something very similar where you can just comment while you're watching the video. So just the comment is linked to that timing specific, and yeah, these can be good, but it's subscription. So if you're doing a lot of that, then it's definitely useful. If not, then not really. But like you said, like sending something that is not color corrected or is like low resolution, you're always going to get at least one person saying like, it doesn't look great. And yeah, they just don't understand what it doesn't mean. It doesn't matter if you say that colors are not what they're going to be like. They're looking at it thinking, how can it go from that to anything great? And they're just freaking out. But even when you do color correct everything by sending a Google Drive link or something like that, if people don't download the video, if they just watch it online, the quality, the resolution is limited by their internet speed. So if they don't have a great internet speed, it's going to be super pixelated, and then they freak out as well. They're like, "Oh, the quality's not great." Like this, and then you go, "No, just download it, you'll see." And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's much better." But like so many times, people have freaked out about quality, thinking that what they were watching on the computer was the finished product. And yeah.
And everybody's screen's different. I could download it on my phone.
Yeah,
I could watch it on this screen is calibrated. This screen's not. So it really depends. So they have to trust you as the editor with your colors. Now, I just want to make a disclaimer. There is no Johnny and Sophie. They are fictional characters. All right. Just in case there's any confusion. And also the importance of the, what you call it, when you get feedback from clients, is setting those boundaries. Set those boundaries before your edit. It's just going to help you. So they know so you have your deadlines, you have your revision dates, you have all that stuff. It makes your project go smoother. So set those boundaries. And if not, it's going to cost them. And there's been cases where I haven't been clear in the past and it cost me my time, where I couldn't charge them more. I felt like it was already enough. We reached the quota. I knew they were stretched at their budget. Yes, they needed another revision. fine, I accepted that. But you make sure it's on your terms, so you set those boundaries with them, and both parties will feel better about the end result and the final project. Yeah, but it's hard setting boundaries, right? Because like your first couple times you do it, you're shy. You don't want to be so strict. When you work with people more often and you build that relationship, it's easier to have those boundaries. I find now that I'm older, I come in and I say, okay, this is your project you hired me for. I give them what I expect from them, and they give me what they expect from me, and we have that conversation right away, and it usually goes smooth. It's when you don't have that open line of communication that's where you come into the problem. So set your boundaries and you should be okay. You will run into issues. You will run into, time delays, crunches, you're waiting for emails or you miss something. That's going to happen. But for the things that you can control, try your best to control them.
So how do you manage basically if you see that your client has a creative direction that you're really not in love with and that you're sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say ashamed of attaching your name to it, but this is so not the type of video that you would do if you were in charge. How do you manage that? Do you just do it anyway, the way they want, or do you try to negotiate something in the middle between your vision and theirs? Do you fight for your vision, or
That's when I'll get off email and I'll make a call or I'll book a Zoom meeting. So I want to face to face.
that's where the intimidation begins?
That's it. That's it. No, because I feel like a lot of stuff gets lost in emails, like tone, especially like if you're already sending
Yeah.
revisions, you're like, oh, the editor's mad at me, or he doesn't want to, he's being stubborn or whatever. I'll make a quick call and I'll be like, hey, Johnny, I'll be like, listen, I know you really want this video to look like this. I just feel like it's going to be better if we go in this direction, and I'm gonna try. I'll meet in the middle. I'll meet in the middle. Like it doesn't have to be my way, but it doesn't have to be their way either. I'll make I'll meet wherever I need to make the best video possible. And I'll be honest with them. If I don't feel the video is up to standard and I'm putting my name on it, I will tell them like, hey, don't tag me in the post then. No, no, I won't go that far, but I will tell them like I feel like the video could be better if we did XYZ instead of this, and I'll give examples why. Most of the time they will listen, and I have to be open minded too. I'm not always right. Sometimes the client or they could be getting pressure for somebody else from a sponsor that you don't even know about. So you have to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, and also they're paying you. So in the past, yes, there's been times where I have not been happy with videos that my name has been associated to. The overall project is fine. It's just there's a certain part that I don't like in it. But I'm more attached to it than the average person who's just watching it for the first time. They're not going to notice those mistakes. Us as editors or creators, we have invested time. Like, when you edit an opening video for a sports team, by the time you're done that edit, you hate that song that you just edited to for 5 days or 6 days and the beats and everything. And then later on you're in the car and for some reason that song comes on and you're like, oh my God, again. Like you've had it. So I try to step away from it because you do get to a point where you're too invested in a project and you're just too close to the project. So sometimes, get a fresh pair of eyes, ask a colleague even, like if I'm working a project and I'm stuck, I'll send it over to you and say, hey, you take a look at this. What do you think of this? And you'll give me an honest opinion and I'll trust you. And if you're like, oh, having that shot at the end or changing the end, it doesn't really do much difference, then I'll be like, okay, you know what? So you got to find a way to meet in the middle. And it's tough. It's tough, but you just got to let go of your ego sometimes to get the project done.
I agree. It's like me and the neighbors.
That's it. That's it. You're like, just get the jackhammering done, please. It's lunchtime.
I gotta sort of get in my zone and just ignore it.
But you know what? Working with clients, they learn from you, but you learn from them too. Especially when you work with different clients. Like I work with plenty of clients where I know like a certain client likes this font, a certain client likes fast-paced videos, a certain client likes rock music. So that's up to me as the editor to kind of figure out what my clients are looking for and learn about my clients. Learn about who I'm doing the videos for, why they're hiring me, why they keep coming back to me. So that it makes it go faster. Like, do you do that obviously too, right? Like you try and figure out, okay, I'm working for this team. They really like this kind of look, or this is this season's look. That's what we're going with.
Yeah, and obviously the more you work with them, the easier this gets because you know exactly. Like, for example, like a client that might have been a pain to deal with from an approval uh, point of view the first time. After a while, it gets easier and easier and easier, and then at the end, it's just if there's any changes, it's minor stuff every time because you know exactly what they want to see in what order, and you just do it instinctively. Where at the beginning, it was always fighting to, especially like because it also sometimes it's just a person. It's not even the brand. It's just a person that is sort of hiring you. If they've got, you know, if you're from a different generation, or you can tell sometimes that they're more of a, you know, they watch content that is very different from the type of content that you watch. So that's where they get their inspiration and their ideas, and it's just totally different from what you watch and what you like. So it just takes you a while to get used to what they're trying to do, and once you get into it, then it's just easy. And like I said, just minor stuff. Obviously, every time there might be a font or a shot that can be used or something, or but yeah, build relationships.
That's
Like
it. That's it.
that's
And
all it is, really.
I don't mind if there's issues with the edit or with changing stuff. As long as there's no issues with the billing, we're good. So as long as you set your price, you know where you're going, you get paid on time. If that stuff all goes through at the end, it makes the project a lot easier too. Because there's nothing worse than having to chase clients for billing or for stuff like that, especially when you've done a couple extra edits, a couple extra things that maybe you shouldn't have done to make the project go smooth. Is you want to make sure that at the end of the day, both parties are happy. They're happy with the content. You're happy with the payment afterwards too, which is tough. It's hard dealing with clients, especially when you're on your own. When you work for a pro sports team, it's easy. They just come with you projects, you edit, you send it back. They tell you what they like, what they don't like. There's multiple revisions. It doesn't matter. You're paid the same no matter what. But when you're doing freelance stuff and that, it's your time. It takes away from your family. It takes away from your free time. It could take away from other clients. So have that communication open as much as possible because it's just going to make it a lot easier process. Yeah, I think is that everything? I think so, eh?
I think so, unless you got some Q&As. But
Actually, I do have one Q&A. Actually, let me pull it
oh,
up. I read it to you before. I'm gonna bring this up. Here it is. Here it is. So we posted a reel, and I'll just read the context of the reel. So it's the truth behind highlight reels. So when it comes to creating highlight reels, E is all about the entertainment. He's not concerned of what actually happened in the game or how well the player played. He's just looking to get viewers hooked from start to finish. Okay. So we have APC camera guy. He's on a totally different side. He says, "I'm paid to care. Guess I'm more of a professional videographer."
well, this is a more of a professional video. I think he means that because in the actual episode, I was saying how if you work for the team, it's probably different. Where if you're like me and you're just sort of you're just doing like a specific video for a thing, then you're not as invested in all this stuff. I think that's what he means.
Well, I don't think it's a negative comment. I just feel like when you're working for a team, you already have a mandate. You already know what you could show. You probably can only show the positive things, and even if it's a bad play or it's happened to me in the past with Canadian edits where a guy scores a goal and gets waved off. Well, even though it was a nice play, we don't show that goal again because it wasn't a goal. But when you're working for a team, for a minor or for a player, if they get a nice basket and even though there was a foul on the shot or the goal was called back, you're still going to show in your highlights. So there's certain things that when you're freelance you can use because you're just for entertainment value. But when you work for a team, there's certain stuff that people know the statistics, they know what's happening in the games. There's certain shots you can't use. I feel like that's where he kind of meant by that.
Yeah, maybe. But I feel like for me, it's like either, like yeah, like that's a good example. Like the goal that, like, let's say you score an amazing goal, if for some reason it's waved off, I would use it 100%. I wouldn't show the part where it's waved off, but like if it's like a highlight reel, we're just trying to show like cool action, cool, exciting stuff. I would use it cut to a reaction or whatever and just move on from there. Like it wouldn't bother me at all that goal was actually waved off.
A team will not show that on their website. You know what I mean? Like you could use it in your edit, in your highlight reel, but a team's not going to showcase that. Like say if they're showing all the goals of the game, that's getting left out. Or the plays of the game, that's getting left out because it didn't.
Yeah, but like for me, like if I was working for a team, I would put it in and let them tell me to take it out. Like I wouldn't just not put it thinking, oh, they probably not going to like it. You know what I mean?
So you like getting emails about approvals. I see where you're going with this.
No, because half the time they don't even realize. You know,
no, it's
not
true.
Everybody remembers everything. Like unless it's a game recap, like it's a different context of it. Like, and because I've gotten away with it before, like especially doing soccer, it's not like there's that many goals. So if there's one that's being, or not necessarily waved off, but like no, I think it was like a offside basically. So yeah, if there's obviously like someone scores a nice goal but turns out to be offside, I'm using that. You know what I mean?
I just feel this comment was more when you work for when you're hired for a specific team, you have different parameters, a different set of rules than what you do if you're a freelancer.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. But
I like the name though, APC camera guy. Why not full frame camera guy? He's using FX30, I guess.
Maybe. Well,
Maybe.
APS.
No, but keep the comments coming. We like it. We like the comments. They're a good way to end our show, and we like hearing from viewers and stuff. So thank you for commenting. All right, so I don't know. I hope today's episode helped balancing creativity and expectations. We did get off topic when we brought up E's basketball stats. Now I did pull up all of E's basketball stats.
I'm not the one who bragged about scoring 25.
Well, I might have Googled the article right here. If you want me to read it, I'll read it out to you. No, I didn't. I looked for it. I couldn't find it. But we did have a pretty good basketball team back in the day. It was fun. Yeah. It made work fun too, right? Yeah. You'd rush out on a Tuesday night after or Wednesday night. We'd stay late and rush out to go play our basketball game.
Yeah, no, it was good. I don't think we ever won the finals or anything. But
no. Well, we couldn't win the finals. You were too busy trying to get 10 points just so you get in the write-up.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hopefully we helped you guys learn how to balance expectations and keep your creativity. But that's it for this episode of Game Day Glare.